Hi and welcome. Welcome to Ron Smith's Fundamentals of Script Lettering for the Hand Engraver. I'm Bill Bennett, and Ron and I both believe that script is the most beautiful style when it's properly executed. In this video you're watching now, Ron will demonstrate what to look for as you do script. He will describe the basic layout considerations and how to practice. He also is going to show you his skeletal layout system that he developed himself. And also, he's going to discuss the importance of harmony and rhythm. Now, since Ron's presentation of script is over an hour long, we've divided it into two sections, Section A and Section B. Be sure and watch Section A first, as Section B will build upon Section A. In Section B, Ron is going to teach the beauty line, and you'll love that one. And then also problem letters and how to deal with them. He's also going to talk about script, monograms, and how to achieve balance. And you can develop a great eye for script, which is really important. And also there's a procedure technique for cutting that makes it simpler and more accurate. And with all videos that we did in the Fundamental of Lettering series, Ron and I did these way back when VHS was the way to do it. And I'm not saying VHS is really old, but while we were building these and making these videos, Ron and I looked out the window just in time to see the last two dinosaurs die. Oh! Oh! Now seriously though, Ron and I made these videos in 1987. VHS was state of the art then, and at least for us it was. At the end of this video you're going to be in for a real special treat. Ron has a great singing voice and is going to sing Patsy Cline's hit, Crazy. I hope you will get to enjoy it too. So now let's go to Ron.
Okay, generally in the script alphabet, we lay out two sets of lines. One is to indicate the capital letter, upper line, and the middle line is to indicate the height of the lowercase letter. And well, we'll write the word script here.
Now those lines usually the same height, distance between the two or the three line?
Yeah, depending on whatever it is you're engraving on. There's times when like you're engraving on an ID bracelet that's very thin, and say you've got a panel on your ID bracelet, and you want to put a girl's name on here. Well, if you allow for the capital letter and you put a line up here, for the capital, and then you split that in half, and you put a lower line, what you're going to end up with is something that's well centered, because you've allowed for your capital letter height, and this is going to be, your lowercase letters are going to be riding along the bottom edge here. That's going to put it off center and make it look out of whack. So you have to compensate for that. The way you do that is, instead of using a standard situation like this, you run your guidelines for your lowercase letters through the center of your bracelet. And then if you have to make your upper letter, your capital letter fit into this space, you can drop it down below the line. We'll give an example here, like we'll do Alfred. Also your stems of your long letters L, F, and D will have to be cut short some to, in order, if you've got a lot of these, then you have to drop this down just a little more to allow for this portion of your letter sticking up. But anyway, that's how you compensate for this situation here. And in that case, you don't lay it out this way. And there'll be a number of times when you'll have to compensate for the space you're working in.
And that's experience and visual compensation rather than mechanical.
Well, yeah, in common sense, it takes, you have to analyze before you start what your situation's going to be, and then after you lay out your design on the article that you're working on, will you look at it and say, well, that doesn't look right, that looks off center. And so if you have to lay it out 3 or 4 times to get it done properly, well, that's what it takes to do a good job.
And so that's one of the advantages of the wax and the talcum powder, to where you can see your
right.
last mistake and correct it.
That's right. Script letter is a beautiful form. The good thing about script is you can get away with a few little minor mistakes, and they don't show so much. Not nearly so as block letter. Now, and the reason is because there are no definite height indicators in the script alphabet. Old English is the same way. And by height indicators, not to say that these letters don't go to the same height, but there's nothing flat. All of these letters, most of these letters are round top letters. And when you erase guidelines, you don't tend to see any distortion in that situation. They all appear, you can be a little off on those and you won't even notice it. Script is a real good style. It's a beautiful style to use, and you'll have more of your problems in your spacing than you will in the height of your letters. Old English is the same way. Old English is easy to lay out for that reason. You can be a little off and it's not going to show nearly as much as the block.
And as you evaluate what you've written there, is there anything about that that disturbs you, or?
Is there anything there to disturb you?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean,
Okay, there is something there that disturbs
especially
me.
around the C.
Exactly. This area right in here.
Uh-huh.
We've got a little open place there. Well, I'm having a little trouble with it working in this large area, and so I don't see these as really apt to back up.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to see it.
Yeah, it's easy to see it from back there, but up here when you're laying it out, it's not. But yes, you're right. And this is what you have to do. You have to lay it out, analyze it, see if there's any holes or the rhythm is broken anywhere, and if it is, go back and do it over.
Well, what would you do to change that?
Okay, what we would have to put a little powder on this. Move the C over just a little bit. And a lot of times we've got it laid out. We can make a little dangly down in there to kind of camouflage. That's better. Also, generally you'll have a little thing like this on the back of the R, which will take up some of that space. That looks better. It still could be adjusted a little more.
Yeah, that looks better already.
That's the good thing about talcum powder, is it's flexible. They recommend Chinese white material, which I don't like to use because it's so hard to repair it. And if you have a problem in your layout, what you got to do is you got to wet the Chinese white and sit there and let it dry, and then you got to draw on top of that, and it's pretty time consuming. This is fairly quick with the powder and the wax. Okay, we have the same problem with script in some cases though, with as far as one-sided letters and two-sided letters and three-sided letters and all that goes. Not so much in the lowercase because they're all fairly uniform, but where you have capital letters, you have a little bit of a problem in having two letters, different heights, of different widths, look fairly good side by side, particularly in the case of initials or a monogram. Not a whole lot you can do about it, but you can narrow them down in some cases, or like take an A, for instance. Kind of a skinny letter compared to a lot of things. Actually a two-stemmed letter, but it doesn't have anything to give it bulk up here. And so a lot many times I'll compensate for that by bringing a line up into this area or up into this area, depending on what I've got surrounding it. Now you can see a W by comparison. It's kind of wide. That doesn't look bad together because you kind of broaden this letter. You can also give the letter A a little bit more width in here to make it more inside with the W. And again, you have to look at your layout and see what letters you got and compensate for those letters accordingly. Now you see that A looks a lot more in keeping with the W. Let me talk about how you begin to practice your lettering. There are a number of good books and things that you can get that have lettering styles in them, and you need to get a good source of styles to study from. Engraver's Manual is one. Jewelry Engraver's Manual, which you can find at Jewelry Supply Company. James Meek's book on the art of engraving is another good one. That when we go to lay out our page to practice our alphabets, and we can do this on a lined secretary's pad. It'll usually come with fairly faint lines all down the page. Really good for practice. And you'll want a good source of study, which would be one of the books I mentioned for the alphabets. Take a lined secretarial pad, and the lines on it are light blue, and you can see just enough to indicate the height of letters. But the way you find the proper slant for script is you divide that page into fours. Then you take and you draw a diagonal line from the 3/4 mark to this corner over here. I'll give you it's out like that. That's a little too much. That's not square though, that's why. We've got to square the board up first. I can't zoom too close to it, I can't hardly see it. Okay, say that's the page. You want to take the page fold it like this. Now you have a square. Take that and you find fourth. You can fold it this way. Once you get one of these laid out, you don't have to, better to use tracing paper, or you don't have to keep doing this on every page. This is just for you to get an index of how much to slant your letters in practice. Now we have this divided in fourths. Now we can draw a line from the third mark up here down to this corner to give you just about the right slant for script letters. And if you do that every time you practice, you won't be varying your letters. You'll begin to develop that natural slant every time you lay them out, and you won't have to draw one. You'll just have it ingrained in you. This is your page. We're going to divide it, of course. Now we're going to draw. That's just about the right slant. Still looks like a little too much, but you can draw a series of these across the page. Make your ruler. Once you get your slant, draw a series of these lightly, parallel, across the page. You don't have to do them this close together because they're going to kind of interfere with your. If you're pretty good at visualizing, as you can put one over the side of the page and then refer back to it as you go along. So let's do that. I don't really need these lines much anymore for index because I've done it for so many years and it comes natural with me. Draw some of the alphabet. In order to be a professional engraver, of course, you have to start somewhere, and most of the time, most engravers start by copying. And so you need a good source to copy from. If you sit down and you copy these letters over and over and over until you get in your mind the construction of each letter, what it looks like, so that you don't have to look at anything, but you know it has a loop at the bottom, a loop at the top, and a loop on this side, and a little loop down here. So you know what that letter looks like in your mind. And most of you might draw a C like this, but in the alphabet, script alphabet, has a loop, comes down and comes back up. You have to get the confirmation of each letter in your mind so that you don't have to refer to anything. Now, some of the secret to drawing good letters is, and I'll show you what I call kind of a system I developed myself, skeletal drawing of the letters. I'll take the A, for instance. Even in my layout on an actual piece, I rarely ever draw a complete letter. I'll draw a skeleton of that letter to indicate the letter. Now you look at that and you say, what is that? Well, that's the A. And I know that's A because I know the construction of the letter, and now all I've got to do is go fill in the spaces. The skeleton of a B, this is called the beauty line, which is the major stem. It's right here. Now we have a bulge, lower bulge, an upper bulge over here. Now, if we look at that skeleton, we see two things. We see balance, and we see a development of of a parallel situation. These lines all being parallel to each other. This establishes the proper lean of the letter, and what you'll see in a lot of beginners work is you'll see all of these things out of whack. This indicates direction. Because they're all slanted the same. If you break that in the production of that letter in any way, then you've distorted the rhythm of script. Okay, now let me show you what I mean. See what's happened there? You've got a lot of lines here opposing the balance and the slant of this letter. This is almost indicating a direction this way. This major stem here is indicating this direction. This is kind of stable, not going any particular place, more or less stationary, and this is the same way. So you got all kinds of things that are violating the slant of that letter. That's what makes lettering look unprofessional. So this is the reason that I use skeleton drawings in teaching, because once a person learns the skeleton to a letter, with that skeleton he can create balance, and rhythm, and slant. So what we do is we just go in and we fill in the spaces. For that reason, this letter, throughout its entirety, is slanted, it's leaning properly, these spaces are balanced, and it's divided up where it's rhythmically beautiful, and nothing is violated.
This is Bill again. I'm stopping here to clarify these points after Ron and I agreed upon the need. Looking at the top B and the bottom B, there appears to be a big difference. The top one is more pleasing. The bottom one, as drawn, appears disturbing. But Ron sees the bottom one only as a guide. He will not redraw this bottom B to begin cutting it. His 25 years of engraving script from his skeletal layout patterns is designed to beautifully and accurately complete the project as quickly as possible. Often he told me that you could engrave a project better than you can draw it, although when he was a grandmaster teacher at GRS, he needed and did develop totally accurate drawings. So what Ron sees in this bottom B is balance, rhythm, and slant. This letter will completely work for him as he engraves it. Please just think of it this way. As Ron cuts this letter, he will make the bottom B look like the top B. This is even described in another way when Ron shows the 4 slanted ovals in the B a little later. Thank you very much. Now back to Ron.
And it goes right along with the slant of this letter and the slant of the letter after, whether it be a lowercase or uppercase. You can also do the lowercase letters by skeleton method. That's an A. And then fill in the spaces. See, by doing those parallel lines, you have created the proper slant, the proper rhythm. Now, carry this a little further. Let's try some skeletons of some more letters. Then let's go down the alphabet. We've already done the A. We're going to do the skeleton of the A. A. G. Z. And you say, how in the world can you tell what those are? And it's because I know in my mind already the structure of these letters. Now let me show you. I'll go in and fill in the line. A. B. C. C. See, all of the letters now are marching along with each other, all at the same slant, and the spaces are all relative, even from this letter to this letter to this letter to this letter. The loops are all pretty uniform, and so each of these letters harmonizes with itself. And what you'll commonly see in some lettering is, take the D for instance, you'll see a C, two letters that are really in good harmony, and all of a sudden you come over here and you got one that looks like this. Doesn't belong. And that's why. Same, this skeleton situation can apply also in the layout of monograms or initials, in any place. Got any questions, Bill?
No, I don't think so. I think now it'll be to apply what I've learned already.
Well, why don't you come over here and let's go through some of it. See what you've learned and see if you can apply it. And I don't know how well you understand or how much knowledge you have about the construction of the letters or how they're constructed. But go ahead and see if you can reproduce that letter.
Without the
Using
using the guideline or
use,
skeleton?
use the skeleton. And this is what you see there, reproduce that letter. In other words, you'll be doing that by relativity, more or less. Distance of one line to another. Okay. Now fill in the space and see if you got a letter that looks like mine. Very good.
It's not exactly, but I can see how it's a lot easier that way. And I tried that one time to sit down and draw it
Okay, now
without the guideline.
do you know the skeleton for the B?
Well, I think I saw you do it a while ago.
Okay. See if you can do the B in the same rhythm and everything as you've got for the A. Okay, now let me critique that just a little bit. That's a pretty nice looking letter. That's what we've got is we've got some opposing lines right here.
Yeah.
See, this line's coming up a little too fast, and I'll show you here what happened. It's coming to a point kind of right here. It's not a smooth arc. Also, spacing is just a little narrow compared to the A. But essentially, it's a pretty nice looking letter. Your only real problem spot is right here.
Mm-hmm.
And
I cut it off short.
yeah. Okay, so what we've got, if we put around, like that letter's rather stationary. It's standing there, not doing anything. But if we do a letter like this, that letter's actually moving, tumbling, rolling, flowing. Okay, this is what we're trying to reproduce. Anytime you cut across and don't produce this elongated effect going with this line right here, then you stabilize that letter. In other words, it stalls out wherever you break that rhythm. So this section of the V should be like that. This section should be like that. This section should be like that.
Okay.
This section should be like that. And all these ovals are all indicating same slant. And the whole overall letter leans and falls the same direction. Now you want to try that again?
Try it again. See if I- Is that better?
Better.
Little hump right there.
That's better. You give me an idea. One thing I see is a little stiffness in your beauty line. Let me explain about this beauty line. Well, we can leave that up there. See how the curves tend to flow a little more. With your curves, you follow that line fairly close, and then all of a sudden you begin to make a turn. Well, this makes your letter look rather stiff. Most of your turn is at the top and at the bottom. Well, what you're doing is you're making your skeleton line just a little too long. Let's cut it down in length and put it more toward the bulge of the letter instead of, see, leave enough space you can go around it. Now that gives you room to start up here and make your beauty line more graceful. Just kind of come out and go around that.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's going the right direction here. That's the biggest flaw right there in most people's lettering, is that their lettering stalls out somewhere because these lines oppose each other. And you can't have that situation and have these letters harmonized. Same with your lowercase letters. Later, the backs of them, or the part that has no roundness to them, you can only fill up the whole line. You gotta, like say for instance, with a small A, you're gonna have to turn back and go this way with your connecting line, so you leave this little space down here at the bottom where you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get through, all these letters will all just march right along here in the same slant and everything. You'll have a good rhythmic situation.
That's the problem I had. I knew generally how to do it, but then they didn't look right when I got done, so I couldn't tell why.
Okay, the beauty curve is a very important line, and that's the major stem portion of all of the capital letters, and it's a beautiful part of the letter. It's a line that is been used for centuries, and because of its beauty in designing of all kinds. You'll see it used in aircraft, you'll see it used in automobiles, you'll see it used in anything of beauty. And primarily that's why you'll see it in knife blades, compound line which curves and cuts backwards. Line of beauty.
That concludes section A of Ron's description of script lettering. Be sure and watch section B. You'll really enjoy that one. And now something very special. Ron's going to be singing Crazy.
I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy for feeling so blue. I love me as long as you wanted, and then someday you leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering what in the world did I do? I'm crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. Crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. And I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you.
Thank you for watching. This is a Be Back to Be production.